Welcome back to another episode of CHP Sports with me, Anthony D'Orazio, and to my left, Kenny Barber. Kenny, how you doing tonight?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Getting by. Just struggling. We're trying to get to spring break with my classes I teach, and almost there. But other than that, not too bad. One topic I wanted us to talk about, and I sent this to you earlier today. I got this from a JJ Redick podcast. He does a podcast that he hosts. It's on his YouTube channel. I think it's called The Old Man and the Three. It's worth listening to if you like basketball stuff. But he was talking about Zion Williamson and how Zion is a disengaged teammate. Right? He discussed how it's very important in a team game to sort of build those connections between you and your teammates outside of the practice facility, outside of the games, sort of just everyday life, like having a group text, et cetera, et cetera. What are your thoughts, Kenny, on how important that is? Do you think it's important? Do you think it's overrated? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, and this is going to be based off experience for me, whether it's coaching experience or as an athlete. I agree with them like 110%. I think team chemistry is probably, you got to be talented and you got to be good, right? But team chemistry is huge for me as far as how successful a team can be. The best teams I was ever on had team chemistry that was unforgettable, if you will. It was unmatched by other teams I had played on, and when some of the best teams I was on, like my high school wrestling team, right? We were 2-time sectional champs. We were ranked in the country at one point. We were ranked in the top 5 of the state. Like, when I tell you we were close, like, I don't even know how to explain how close we were. Like, we did everything together in school. We did everything together outside of school. We were together all the time, right? And it was just a special group. And I still see these people now, and you can just talk about things like they just happened yesterday, right? It's just that kind of bond. And I think that's what made it so good. And even in a sport like wrestling, where it's a very individual sport, if you will, right? Once you get to postseason, individual, it's gone, right? But as a team, we knew we needed each other to win these team matches. So especially in wrestling, you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? So you needed even your guys that weren't as good to wrestle well for team points and stuff like that. And, even the best football teams I was on, the best baseball teams, I think he made a great point about basketball, right? It's a low number team. Football has 50 guys on the roster. Yeah, right. There's probably some guys that aren't really all in, right? There's some guys that are kind of disengaged. But with basketball, there's only 5 guys out there at a time. And what's a basketball roster carry? Like 12, 14 guys maybe? I don't even know what it is. But, you got to think that that's a pretty tight-knit group, or it should be, to win. And even if, you look at like the Dennis Rodmans, right? You listen to Jordan talk about that in The Last Dance, and like, yeah, he wasn't like hanging out all the time with everybody. But when he was ready to roll, I mean, he's probably the outlier here. He's the guy where you could say, oh, yeah, but what about Dennis Rodman, right? He still won championships. He's a kind of a strange dude doing his own thing. I mean, he disappeared during the season for like a week, and they found him in Las Vegas. And then he came back the first day and beat everybody in their drills and everything. Like, so he just, he was going to show up ready to play, right? So there are some exceptions, I think, but I'm big on it. I think team chemistry, the best teams I've coached, when I coached football, all the kids hung out with each other. They went to school together. They went to parties together, talking about, not parties, but like, birthday parties, and they all hung out all the time. They did everything together. So, and they had some of them kids. I'm friends with them on Facebook now, right? They're grown men now, and they're still friends with all the friends that they were playing football with back in the day. So yeah, I think it's very important. I think it's huge in team sports for sure.
All right, before I answer,
go ahead.
Can you put in your earphones, because I think I'm getting feedback from my mic on your end?
Yes. Hopefully
it'll just save me a ton of editing, and I can just cut this part out. Sorry, but it saves me a shit ton of issues.
I didn't even think about it. I just clicked on and started talking. I forgot about my headphones. Yeah. All right, go ahead. Is that better?
Yeah, I think so. It's when I'm talking, I can like hear myself.
Okay.
All right, we're back. Sorry about that. We had a little technical difficulty. So I actually think I kind of disagree
Okay.
to the extent that I find. So I was one of those people that because I was mostly antisocial and I didn't do well in social groups, that when I played team sports, I was very much invested in the practices, doing off-season work on my own, in the games, I play my ass off. But I was also the guy that when the game ended and teammates would offer me rides home, I would rather walk the 3 miles home in the snow than accept a ride from a teammate. And I did that, right? I have stories of walking home in the snow to get home from basketball practices.
Uphill, both ways?
Well, it was across some railroad tracks, actually, because I was cutting through illegally.
Yeah.
But and to me, it was like I didn't, I was the same guy that like after game, when I was probably 13, 14, 15, somewhere around there. Guys would be like, people, like his parents were like, oh, everyone's going out to eat. Anthony, do you want to come? I'm like, no, I want to go home. Like, and I was fine with that. Like, I don't think it affected my play at all. Like, I don't think I played any less hard because I wasn't really like close friends with the guys, but I also had no desire to be close friends with the guys.
Yeah. And that's where I could see it working, right? As long as you show up and play. The problem I think occurs if like you're not participating in that stuff and then you're not showing up to play hard, right? That's where I think it can get like start causing a rift for the team. It sounds like you were a good teammate as far as you came out and you gave your all, right? And I'm fine with that. We don't have to hang out. Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to my wife about it yesterday, and she was kind of on more your side of the fence. And my thought was, I mean, I admit that I am able to partition things in my life very well. My wife yells at me for this because she's not able to partition things nearly as well as I am. And to me, it's very distinct things. Like if I'm here to play, I'm here to play. I'm here to practice. I'm here to practice hard. That doesn't mean I need to like you. And as I told her, I was like, look, I've had teammates. I'm sure you've had teammates where you weren't friends. You didn't like them. Like they didn't like you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You didn't like them. But as I told her, I was like, yeah, sometimes it makes the practices maybe a little awkward. But like in the game, you don't have time to think about like, oh, I don't like this guy.
No.
Like it's too fast paced in a game or a competition to worry about that. You're just doing, you're just focused on your job, or at least you should be. I think if you're doing that, it should be fine. So yeah, I think it's interesting. I think if you're able to partition and separate things and commit, I felt like Redick in that in that clip I sent you was very much saying that the sort of outside of the sort of practices and the games was like extremely important. And I guess that's what I disagree with. Like I don't think it is. Like I don't need to be on your stupid group text where you talk about bullshit. Like I just don't care.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have that back then, right? So like, that's a whole nother thing. I don't really think about like group texting. And look, the other thing is, I think it matters to your role on the team, right? Zion's a superstar, right? So in that sense, I can see what he's saying. Like, you need him to kind of rally the troops, if you will. Like, hey, I'm the guy. Let's, everybody was kind of following what Jordan would say right back in the day, or someone like that with that caliber of leader. So maybe that's what he's looking for a little bit more. I'm not saying we got to be on group text and send each other notes all the time. I'm saying like, yeah, we had good team chemistry in high school. We had great runs, and we did hang out a lot afterwards. That doesn't mean everybody did, right? There was some kids that we didn't see or hang out with, but they came up and they practiced hard and they wrestled hard when it was time to go, right? So, I can respect that. I don't have to like be best friends with you. And there was some teammates I didn't like, right? But we made it work because there was such a tight core, right? There was that core and that leadership that held it together, I think. And that's maybe what Redick's looking for out of Zion, a little more leadership maybe. That's the vibe. I hate using that word. I just said vibe. That's the vibe I got from Redick. It didn't even seem like it was a hangout thing. it seemed like more of like he wanted more leadership out of him almost. From how I heard it, that might not sound like
Yeah,
it to
no,
you.
I don't disagree with that. Leadership's a weird. I mean, it's a weird thing to me because it's, you expect your superstars to be leaders
The leader,
almost
yeah.
inevitably, but
Like if this was the tenth
some
guy
people aren't wired
on the
that way.
bench, yeah. If this is the tenth guy on the bench, Reddick probably doesn't say anything about it. He doesn't notice, right? But it's Zion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I can understand where he's coming from. Whether and again, mine's just off of my experience playing sports and coaching sports, right? That's our better teams had awesome chemistry, right? Whether it was baseball, football, our baseball team that was really good my junior year. I mean, we would go on bus trips and we had a ball, right? And we showed up ready to play, but we had so much fun together, right?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I think chemistry is good. I mean, I completely agree with the chemistry aspect. I'm not sold on, I guess, the extent to which you need to do things to get it. I guess it seemed to me like Reddick was pointing out, and I think he was making 2 points. I think he was pushing that sort of chemistry outside of practice and
Yeah.
outside the times you're like required to be together, I guess.
Yeah.
And also the leadership aspect with Zion. And yeah, I don't know, the leadership, I get it. And as we kind of noted, you do expect that out of your top players, but it's, again, some guys just aren't wired for that, or not wired for it in the way other guys want them to be wired for it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Some guys want like very vocal leaders. Other guys, some guys are just like, well, just follow, like, I'm not going to talk, but just follow what I do on the court or, on the field.
Well, and from accounts I've heard, that's what I've heard about Zion. Like he is a good leader in the sense that he works hard, he shows up early, he leaves late. He puts in the work. From all accounts I heard at Duke, he was a good teammate and he was worked very hard and always working on his game. And so I don't know. Reddick, maybe he's just a different kind of a leader, right? They both came from Duke. You could tell Reddick was probably a little more vocal guy, right? He maybe he is the guy trying to rally the troops and get everybody together, and that more of an old school mentality, right? It is a little different now. Neither right nor wrong, right? It's just different. Maybe Zion's. You got to remember too. He's like 20 years old, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's only at my alma mater for a year, so it's not like.
Yeah, like how old is he? He's got, what is he, 22, 23 now, maybe?
I don't even think he's that old. I think you're right. I think he's like 20, to be honest.
So, what I mean? Like anytime I think about this kind of stuff, you kind of forget how old these kids are, right? He's literally in early 20s. And then I'm like, what was I doing? Yeah, I'm like, what was I doing when I was 21? Oh, I know. I was being a maniac. I was going out to bars and drinking, and I wasn't on a professional basketball team. So, it's tough, and they expect these guys to come in and act like grown leaders right from the time they're 18, 19 years old. They're still young. They're still maturing. They're still
especially when I think it's one thing if you're putting them, if they were jumping into a league with a bunch of guys their age, but you're jumping into a guy. I mean, Reddick just retired, right? So like if you come in the league and you're Zion Williamson, and you've got JJ Reddick who's 35, is 15 years older than you. Right, he's almost double your age. Like, how are you going to feel like a leader around him? You know what I mean? I think it takes a very special type of personality, like a Joe Burrow, just because we talked about him quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean that guy's a special.
Yeah, be able to come in and sort of take on a leadership role and gain the respect of veterans that are very good players. I mean, Reddick was a phenomenal player. Not a superstar necessarily, but a phenomenal role player for many, many years. I mean, he could light it up when he got hot, and to be able to come in and sort of have not only have the confidence, but earn the respect of those guys, to have that leadership role in the clubhouse is, I think, a very difficult thing to ask. A kid that just spent 1 year in college, and then jumped right to the NBA.
Well, look at Zion, look at Zion's career, right? His junior senior year, he was like YouTube sensation, right? Here this kid is. He's like a complete freak of nature doing these dunks. So he's like up here, right? And then he's like Duke, and he's like up here, right? And then you go to the NBA, and the NBA careers are way longer than football, right? So I think Joe Burrow comes in at 20 years old, with 21. I don't know how old he is. The oldest guy might be 30 on that team or 29. Football careers, I mean, Sam's like Tom Brady. Most guys are out by early 30s, right?
Yeah.
Basketball, you're seeing guys out playing until they're 35, 36. Look at LeBron. What's he, 38? How the heck old is he now?
He's like 30, 'cause he's like a year or two behind me.
Yeah. So, like, that's a huge age gap. So maybe he doesn't want to hang out with JJ Redick, right? He's 20 years old. Like, maybe I don't want to hang out with a 35-year-old guy. And that might be all it is. And, and I could, I didn't hang out with 35-year-old guys when I was 21 years old, right? So yeah, it is weird. And you got to remember too, like my experience stuff, like we were all in high school. We were all 15, 16, 17 years old. Of course, you're all experiencing the same things. You're all doing the same things. These guys, JJ Redick's been in the league for 15 years already. And it's different.
He's at a different stage of his life. He's got a wife. He's got kids at home.
Yeah.
Very different.
Maybe Zion wants to go out to the bar or something, and maybe JJ's talking about you're a professional athlete now. You got to take care of your body. You got to take care of this. Yeah, right. Maybe I get that you're getting paid lots of money, right? You should be taking care of that kind of stuff, especially Zion, right? Who's had some injury issues and stuff like that. But again, 21 years old, right? That's maybe it takes a while to figure that stuff out sometimes, right? And I think some kids. Maybe, like Burrow, like he's a quarterback, first of all. So he's supposed to be the leader, right? That's just the way he was brought up. He led one of the biggest schools in the country. He's just kind of used to being there in that role. And again, NFL players are generally, I think, younger than NBA players. So it might be a little easier, right, to get that respect, if you will, from the older guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you said that. It made me think a lot. I'm like, because like you said, I'm just basing on my experience, right? And chemistry meant a lot to the best teams I played on. But it's a different scenario when you really talk about it, because the guy's 21 and there's a 35-year-old man talking about it. It's a big difference. It's a good topic.
Yeah, no, agreed. The other things, since it's kind of like we've discussed before, we're kind of in a doldrum of sports. But we did have the SEC track and field indoor championships recently. And I sent Kenny 2 incredible videos I found from those. The first, I got to make sure I get her name right because it was stunning. Abby Steiner for Kentucky. I believe she runs for Kentucky. It's a blue uniform, so I believe it's Kentucky. Wins the women's 200 meters in an second all-time fastest indoor 200 meter time for a female athlete, 22.09 indoors, which is flying.
Mm-hmm.
Like flying. So you can find the video on YouTube. But it's just incredible. And I mean, you saw it. She annihilates the field, right? Which is obviously it's the finals in the SEC. It's an extremely good field, and she just annihilates it. And I mean, what were your thoughts when you watched it, Kenny?
I mean, look, I've always told you that track people are like, it's like the guys that surf big waves to me. Like they're just on another planet. I was never a fast guy, so I have trouble just comprehending what they do. Like seeing somebody run that fast and then just dominating that much in such a short amount of time. Kind of like the other guy, right? That ran the 60 meters, finishing that far ahead. What's his name? Bolin? Yeah.
Matthew Bolden, yeah.
Yeah,
Bolin,
just like
sorry.
seeing how far ahead she's finishing, it's crazy. And it's not like she's racing high school kids, right? She's racing other SEC college athletes who are very good runners, who are the top interstate when they were in high school, and she's just killing them. So it's. Yeah, the track people, man, they are very impressive to me. Always been impressed with them. In most of the things, whether it's the sprinting or the distance or the long jumping, they're just all so impressive to me. So I tip my cap.
Yeah, no, it was really good. Bowling, in case if people don't know who he is a very young sprinter. He goes to the University of Georgia. He's had a lot of hype behind him for the
Big
last
YouTube
couple
guy too.
years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in
big
high school.
YouTube guy. I mean, it's unclear. I mean, he's been very dominant. He's been extremely good. He got to the finals of the uh, USA Olympic track and field championships to go to the Olympics. He got to the finals in the 100. I think he got to the finals in the 200 as well. Maybe not the 200, but his legs were kind of tired. You could tell he kind of like the college track season kind of took it out of him because he ran his best at the college championships. And then the Olympic trials, he wasn't as good. But this year, I want to say he's a sophomore. He might be a junior. But he's still very young. But he's running extremely well this year. And I sent Kenny the video. He dominated he's been undefeated this year. At least going into this meet, he was undefeated in every event he had done. He had not lost. And he's been running from the 60 up until he's been like a 200 guy mostly, but he's been working the 60 and his starts a lot better. And he smoked his semifinal heat. And I think he had a second fastest time in the world this year for indoor 60 meters. And then the finals, he got off a terrible start, but he caught the guy that had a better start, that was sort of leading most of the race, and they had a photo finish. That was so close. You couldn't actually – I've never seen this before in track and field. They could not decipher a winner. Down to a thousandth of a second, they had the same time. So it was pretty crazy. It's worth looking at the video just to
if you watch his like high school videos and even this one, his acceleration it doesn't make any sense. Like, his knock was that he got bad starts, right? They said, but even in high school, you couldn't tell because by about his 10th stride, all of a sudden it looked like everything.
Yeah, because like from 15 to 30 meters, he's insane.
Yeah, it looked like everyone started running backwards while he was going forward in high school. Like, it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. And then I see him in this video doing it in the semifinal heat and blowing everyone's doors off.
Yeah.
How much further can you get ahead?
The semifinal feat, his acceleration was crazy.
Yeah. But my thing is, like, it's 60 meters. How much further ahead can you possibly be? And he was there.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot,
then,
apparently.
Yeah. And then he gets a bad start, right? This guy gets a big lead on him, and he just catches up somehow. And, yeah, the finish was crazy. Like, dead heat. I guess, how do you score that? They're both first, and then there's just a second place?
Yeah, they just tied for first, which is like I've never seen it, and I've watched track and field races for 30-odd years.
Yeah.
So super crazy. And again, I mentioned it just because, it's worth mentioning him if you're not familiar with him in the track and field scene. He's a lot of fun to go YouTube. But also, that race is just, again, one of the crazier finishes you'll ever see.
For sure.
And that's about it. I think there were other couple big performances at that particular meet, but I don't feel like talking about them today. I think the other big conferences are having their meets around this time for the indoor season, so we might see some other cool performances come out.
Is it Pac-10 or Pac? What are they?
Pac-10, Big Ten, you might see a couple things.
But SEC is probably the best.
Yeah, SEC is probably SEC and I guess whatever. What's Texas in? Texas and Baylor. They're Big 12.
Yeah, but then there's like
Big 12
Oregon,
because those.
like
yeah,
Oregon,
so you sort of have the Pac-12, Big 12. You'll get some big performances because of those schools. Like Baylor, always fast.
Mm-hmm.
Texas always has some fast people on their squad. They're a renowned track and field program. Oregon, obviously, you'll get a lot of more of the distance guys doing some crazy stuff. And it's just been a crazy indoor track and field season. Like a lot of records, not necessarily world records, but like national records are falling. As we mentioned, Abby Steiner's was, I think, collegiate record. Again, it's the second fastest of all time. So it's an American record because I think it was a Jamaican. I'm forgetting the name of who has the indoor record for the 200, but it's not American. So she has the fastest American record now. So it's just been a crazy indoor season, and it should lead to some hopefully really good outdoor racing once the outdoor season kicks off, which will probably be another month or two.
Yeah.
I think that's probably when Diamond League starts up. So that should be a lot of fun. Other than that, NBA is kind of churning along. Maybe we'll talk about that next week. Do you have anything else to add, Kenny, today?
Wrestling postseason is Big Tens are this weekend, so that's the best conference in wrestling. It's if you get out of that alive, you have a good chance to do well at the national tournament. High school states are this weekend. I will be attending that with my son, so that'll be fun. We went to regions last week, and my friend's son took second place, so it was fun to see that. And man, there's some impressive young men out there. Particular one freshman I saw win regions as a freshman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
New Jersey's tough wrestling, right? If you win regions as a freshman, you're pretty good. So it'll be fun to watch his career. And my son loved it, so I was happy about that. Usually, you don't see many 6-year-olds sitting there watching like full wrestling tournaments. He's like
that's amazing.
Yeah, he's like obsessed with it. It's crazy. But yeah, Big Tens. I'll be watching that. I love watching the Big Ten Wrestling Conference championships. And so other than that, basketball's going on. Sixers got Harden, right? Big trade. So far, it looks like I didn't like the trade, but so far it looks like it's working out well. They've dominated the first couple of games. So, but we can chat about that. Yeah.
Sounds good. All right, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, share. We appreciate it. And we will probably see you next week. Peace out.